Welcome to Human Rights Asia Weekly Roundup. In today's program, focus on police extortion continues. Reflections on Women Human Rights Defender Day. Tamil poet arrested and deported in Sri Lanka. Long marchers start Karachi hunger strike. Pakistan, the third worst in global slavery index. AHRC moves office to Photan. Stay with us for more on these issues. Welcome to Human Rights Asia Weekly Roundup. I am Ansar Stianas. We continue our focus on the widespread problem of police extortion with more stories from Bangladesh and India. We start in Bangladesh, where Mr. Jinnah Mian, a businessman based in Safar in Dhaka, told the AHRC that the police extorted money from him. According to the story, a team led by Police Sub-Inspector Emdadul Haq came to Jinnah's house in the early hours in November 2012, falsely accusing Jinnah's 20-year-old son of drug possession. Despite failing to find drugs in the house, the police detained both father and son and threatened to fabricate murder charges against them unless they paid 100,000 Bangladeshi taka. Terrified of the murder case threat against them, Jinnah agreed to pay some money to the police on condition that they will be allowed to return home. Before the incident, Jinnah had saved 70,000 Bangladeshi taka for a post-funeral ritual for his deceased father, who passed a month before this incident. Jinnah said, "I offered 50,000 taka to Sub-Inspector Emdad out of my total 700,000 taka budget for my father's post-funeral ritual. The police took 50,000 taka from me and I was released. They kept my son detained until I gave the remaining 20,000 taka to the police. I already invited my relatives and neighbors for participating in the ritual, which could not be arranged as the police took all my money." AHRC's human rights defenders asked Police Inspector Muhammad Azadu Zaman, who was the officer in charge of the Safar police station in Dhaka. Inspector Azad admitted the incident of the extortion. Expressing his regret, he said, "It was not known that the money was going to be the budget for such a ritual." However, the authorities have not taken any action against the police officers involved in the extortion. The AHRC has been campaigning for police reforms in India, without which protection and promotion of human rights in the country is impossible. Ms. Padmini, a traffic police warden, has accused local police investigating her complaint of sexual harassment of intimidation in order to protect the interests of the offender. The accused in the original complaint punched Padmini on the chest and ripped off her name tag while she was on duty. The incident occurred in one of the busiest traffic junctions of Kochi City, Kerala, in front of a large crowd. The local police is now protecting the accused. He is a fugitive suspect in another armed robbery case for which arrest warrants are pending. When Padmini tried filing a complaint, she was made to run between police stations, and finally, when her complaint was recorded, the investigating officer watered it down so that the accused could obtain bail. The police also failed to inform the court that an arrest warrant for a previous crime was pending against the accused. The police had on an earlier occasion reported to the state authorities that the person had left the country when in fact he was under their protection. Finding that the institution Padmini works for is biased in favor of a criminal who has bribed her superiors, Padmini convened a press conference to tell her story.
സംഭവത്തിൽ പത്മിനിക്ക് എതിരായാണ് പോലീസ് റിപ്പോർട്ട് നൽകിയത്. പ്രതി കോടതിയിൽ നിന്ന് ജാമ്യം നേടുന്നതുവരെ പോലീസ് വിനോഷിനെ അറസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാതെ സംരക്ഷിക്കുകയായിരുന്നു. അതേസമയം കേസിൽ തന്റെ മൊഴി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുവാൻ സ്റ്റേഷനിൽ വിളിച്ചു വരുത്തി അപമാനിക്കുകയാണ് ചെയ്തിരുന്നതെന്ന് പത്മിനി പറഞ്ഞു. തനിക്ക് അനുകൂലമായ നിലപാടെടുക്കുന്നവരെ പോലും പോലീസ് തെരഞ്ഞുപിടിച്ച് പീഡിപ്പിച്ചു.
അവരുടെ ബാക്ക്ഗ്രൗണ്ട് എടുക്കുക, അവരുടെ ബന്ധങ്ങൾ കൊണ്ടുവരിക. അപ്പം കൂടുതലും കുട്ടികളും സ്ത്രീകളും ഇതിൽ നിന്നും പിന്മാറും, കേസിൽ നിന്ന് പിന്മാറും. ആ ഒരു ഒറ്റ നടപടിയാണ് പോലീസിൽ നിന്ന് ഇതുവരെ ഉണ്ടായിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നതും.
തന്നെ ആക്രമിച്ച പ്രതി വിനോഷിന്റെ ചിത്രങ്ങളുമായാണ് പത്മിനി വാർത്താ സമ്മേളനത്തിലെത്തിയത്. പത്മിനിക്കെതിരായി റിപ്പോർട്ട് നൽകിയ പോലീസ് പക്ഷേ പ്രതിയുടെ ക്രിമിനൽ പശ്ചാത്തലത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് അന്വേഷണം പോലും നടത്തിയില്ല. പ്രതിക്ക് മുൻകൂർ ജാമ്യം ലഭിച്ചതോടെ ഇനി എന്തു ചെയ്യുമെന്ന് അറിയാത്ത അവസ്ഥയിലാണ് പത്മിനി.
ഞാൻ പൊതുസമൂഹത്തിനോട് ചോദിക്കുന്നത്, ഞാൻ ജീവിക്കണോ മരിക്കണോ? എനിക്ക് നീതി കിട്ടുമോ? എനിക്ക് നീതി കിട്ടാൻ വേണ്ടി ഞാൻ ഏത് വാതിലാണ് ഇനി മുട്ടേണ്ടത്? ഞാൻ എന്താണ് ഇനി ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്? അത് ഈ സമൂഹത്തിൽ വേദന അനുഭവിക്കുന്ന ഓരോ വ്യക്തികൾ എനിക്ക് മറുപടി തരണം.
The case is typical of the challenges ordinary people in India face when they approach the police with complaints. Without briefing officers, recording a complaint is almost impossible in India. Last week Friday was Women Human Rights Defender Day. The UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights Defenders, Margaret Sakagya, has published a report highlighting the dangers of being a woman human rights defender. State authorities in many parts of the world, including in Asia, engage in death threats, rape, smear campaigns, and the criminalization of the work of women human rights defenders. In contrast, male human rights defenders do not experience the same high rates of threats and violence, according to the report. It seems that women who stand up for human rights and gender equality for women in particular are a threat to the status quo in patriarchal societies. In November, the UN tabled a draft resolution for the protection of women human rights defenders, which it encouraged all nations to recognize and take measures to protect women human rights defenders in their countries. 65 UN member states have declared their support for the resolution, with some others trying to weaken its scope. We spoke to a few AHRC human rights defenders about the issues they have faced in their own work and about other women human rights defender role models they might have.
Since you are a woman, this is something not your job. Like, your job is to be at home, cook for the children, cook for your husband, for your family, and going out and challenging the authority is something considered not a woman's job. So that's the most challenge that I often face to be a human rights defender. And then again, the second question is that mobility. Like, as a human rights defender, you have to travel, you have to go here and there. It often comes with the additional challenges about the logistics, like where you stay. There are certain vulnerable areas, vulnerable peoples are around, and that makes me challenging. And also sometimes because of our patriarchal mindset, some co-workers, colleagues, they take you very differently. And just that because of the, which I would term as gender discrimination. It may not be direct physical, mental or intimidating, but it's something that affects you over a period of time. So these are some challenges that I think the women human rights defenders feel, which otherwise a man has never faced.
As a daughter, we always have a challenge of, fighting for our own rights. We started from our childhood within the four walls of our own home. So, coming from a conflict place with militarization has been forcing more than 50 years, 55 years in my place, killing lots of innocent people in the name of counterinsurgency and, produce lots of thousands of widows and fatherless children became me a challenge and a kind of inference which made me what I am today. And one of the things I inference from one of the ladies, Irom Sarmila, who has been fasting more than 30 years to repeal one of the most draconian acts in this world, that's called Armed Forces Special Powers Act 1958. She has been fasting, requesting the government to repeal this act, but still she has been fasting and she is in the jail.
Over the years, in women's movement, if we analyze the culture of women's movement, it's been always the women's solidarity, which has helped them to come together, to fight for justice, to raise their voice. So I think as women rights defenders, we should always stand up for solidarity for our sisters and encourage them, inspire them, help them in different ways, such that we can take the struggle forward, we can continue our struggle for equality to prove that we are equally compatible as a human rights defender and we are equally challenging as well, and we can take up the challenge as well.
About my inspiration, looking at the women human rights defenders working in the field of human rights, I'm really inspired, and we together are working in our country so many issues related with the human rights of those women who are deprived, living on those areas which are far from the urban areas. So there is need to work for them, and jointly and as well as individually. So the women human rights defenders in my country, whenever they are working in the fields, they always discouraged.
Tamil poet Shanmugam Pillai Jayapalan, famously known as VIS Jayapalan in the Tamil literary world, was arrested by the police on November 22nd. When inquiries were made by press agencies, the government spokesman stated that he had been arrested for breaking visa regulations by having meetings during his stay. Due to a protest by the journalist associations, human rights groups, and the international community, the government announced that he was to be deported from Sri Lanka. Harassment of Sri Lankans living abroad on their return to Sri Lanka has become a common feature in the north and the east. Some European governments have found evidence that some of the returnees have been tortured. The Long March for Baloch missing persons have arrived in Karachi after walking over 700 kilometers from Quetta in Balochistan. During the walk, the participants received anonymous messages on their cell phones, threatening that they will be kidnapped or killed if they do not stop the Long March. Despite the threats, the participants pushed on to Karachi and have now begun a hunger strike in front of the Karachi Press Club to highlight the issue of enforced disappearances and to get the attention of human rights organizations and the international community. One of the participants said, "We will continue our protests until all the missing persons reappear or are produced before the court." December 2nd marks the International Day for the Abolition of Slavery. According to the Global Slavery Index, it is estimated that there are 29.8 million people in modern slavery globally. Pakistan ranks third in the index, with an estimated 2 million people involved in various forms of modern slavery. India and Nepal rank the fourth and fifth respectively. Global Slavery Index was first released this year by the Australia-based Walk Free Foundation, which addresses the problems of modern-day slavery. The index assesses 162 countries and ranks them on the basis of pervasiveness of slavery, including bonded labor, child slavery, forced and unpaid labor, debt bondage, decent pay slavery, the occurrence of child and forced marriage, and the volume of human trafficking, both in and out of each country. AHRC says that modern slavery needs to be understood as a crime, which flourishes not only because of poverty and discrimination, but also due to the extreme abuse of power, corruption, and the absence of the rule of law. And lastly, in short, the AHRC has moved to the following new office address. That is all for this week's Human Rights Asia Weekly Roundup. For more information on these issues, please log on to www.humanrights.asia. Thank you for watching and hope to see you again next week.